2007 movie, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I got that one right? Yeah. As I say, 27 release, directed by Andrew Dominic. He's also responsible for the screenplay based on a novel by Ron Hansen. The cinematography brilliantly delivered by Roger Deakins. Music's by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis. The cast in the lead role as Jesse James is Brad Pitt. Mary Louise Parker plays Z James. I'm assuming that's a wife or a sister. Or Brooklyn Press is Mary James. Dustin Bollinger plays Tim James. Casey Affleck plays Robert Ford. Sam Rockwell is Charlie Ford, Robert's brother. Jeremy Renner plays Wood Height. Sam Shepard is Jesse's older brother, Frank. And then there's a few other notables in the cast, which I don't need to go into. Just quickly running through them. No, I think we're all right there. Okay, so I haven't seen this in 16 years, so we'll see what it's like. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, 2007. I'll start by saying I do recall watching this movie with my American cinema buff Scott, and I thought it was pretty ordinary. A Western as such, but lacking activity really. It was very dry, and it was about how Robert Ford managed to weasel his way into Jesse's gang at and about the time when they ceased robbing banks and robbing railroad trains of their dosh, and decided to jack it in. And what I'd like to say before I go on to my notes was how the film sort of is like an onion really. It peels back on the characters so that we get a vivid sort of picture of what made them tick, and how amidst the gang they were all sort of going through life feeling that they were one step away from a bullet, as they were all outlaws. And also the fact that there was huge rewards out, particularly on James. He was constantly being tested for his own sanity, because he believed that, or he certainly thought on a regular basis, that he could be betrayed by anyone in the gang. And the acting is of a very, very high order. Brad Pitt, who plays Jesse James, is a sort of a cool, deceptive sort of character that's short on words, but when he speaks, they tend to have a huge impact. The gang, as such, put him up as a sort of pedestal of strength and decisiveness, and also violent integrity. And we get a glimpse of his brother Frank, played by Sam Shepard, who's a very, very cynical of the motives of anybody who wants to get involved in the gang. And this is particularly shown with his early conversations with Robert Ford, who arrives sort of unexpectedly where the gang are sort of residing, and Frank is immediately suspicious of his motives. Jesse, however, seems to be a little bit more, well, let's wait and see. And Robert's brother, played by Sam Rockwell, his name's Charlie, is already involved as a gang member.
there's also a short part, but nevertheless an impactful part by Jesse's cousin, played by Jeremy Renner. And I just found, as I'm watching it again, um, uh, it's really, and the cinematography by Roger Deakins is absolutely of the highest order. And there's lots of open spaces, there's lots of change of seasons, and also intimate close-ups in rooms, and discussions between members of the gang on a variety of subjects, particularly women, and it's and of course what's going to happen. Now that they've effectively hung up their guns, what's going to be of them all. And then, of course, what starts to rear its ugly head is the fact that suspicions amidst them it gains strength, and there is some wayward emotions which lead to a number of them getting killed. Sort of reminded me a little bit of Reservoir Dogs, in as much that the cement that held them all together when they were actually involved in stealing money from banks and from railroad trains. That's all sort of fragmented now that they've given up that sort of.
James, Brad Pitt, disposes of the gang, breaks the gang up by sending some of them to the Ford family ranch, which is in the middle of nowhere, which has been used as a place to escape to in the past. And he sends his cousin, Wood Hite, played by Renner, and Dick Liddit, played by Schreider, off there. And they're later joined by Robert Ford, and of course Charlie Ford is already there. There's issues between Wood and Dick, because Dick has sort of a fascination with all women that he comes across that are young and fanciful, and he makes a play for the wife of Wood's father, who's much older than his rather pretty wife, and this incident leads to a very unsettling situation between the two, and it's culminated in a shootout at the Ford household. And I found the whole thing intoxicatingly good and indicative of the sort of psychotic nature of these characters. They're all gunmen, and they're all outlaws, of course. Some point of reference at the beginning with the narration, we are told that Jesse James has adopted the name Thomas Howard with a wife and 2 kids, and moulded into the community after a life of crime. And this is in not quite clear as to where it is. However, the bulk of the movie in 1881 commences with them resident in Kansas City, Missouri, and at that time James was 34 years of age, and he'd already been pinned for the murder of 17, and then we sort of get to meet Ford appearing out of the book, it appears, and As I said, Frank sees Ford as a fraud, not much stomach for him, and can't see him as a gunslinger. But Jesse is more open to the idea of him joining the gang. As I say, the last job was the Blue Coat train robbery, and then the gang disperse as Jesse effectively breaks up the gang. The latter part of the movie, we see how Ford is influenced by the government to take it upon himself to commit the evil deed, and then there's a lengthy back end which focuses on the final deed with his brother Charlie there, and post death, how James, even as a dead person, becomes seen almost as a sort of a figure to be amused and viewed by the public as this classic outlaw. And both Robert and Charlie take the opportunity to carry out a series of sort of theatrical events where they reenact the killing of James by Robert Ford. Eventually, it's all too much for those two, and their end I won't bore you with now. One point I did see James Carville, who's a politician, doing a brief bit of acting, and the executive producers, I saw Ridley Scott's name.